Alright, what's going on, guys? And today I wanted to talk about my favorite style of motorcycle, the Supermoto. These unique looking on-off-road capable machines provide for an extraordinary amount of fun while limiting your risk of excessive speed, which is great for new riders looking to get into the sport of riding motorcycles, and for the veterans looking to add to their arsenal of bikes. I think this is a very cool option, and I think it'd be fun to talk about all the different kinds and which ones I think are best. But before we get into specific bikes, I wanted to talk about some of the key takeaways from the Supermoto. And having owned one for many years now, we've had three different kinds. We've had the CRF 250L, the XR 650L, and the CRF 450L. And after owning all three of those Supermotos, I wanted to add to what I think are the highlights of the Supermoto and its big advantages. One, they're cheap to get into, depending on which one you go with, and we'll break that down when we go further into it. It's a neat community and group of people that are into them, especially from the racing community all the way to all the people that we meet at the Tail of the Dragon. We take those Supermotos is the only bike that we take every time we go because it's the best bike down there, or the most fun. They're light enough that you can easily throw them in the back of a truck, and they're big enough that you can ride on the interstate, unlike a mini moto. As you know, I have a Grom, and I really like that bike, but if I had to pick one, I'd have to choose the Supermoto. Alright, and for our list of Supermotos, I'm going to be categorizing them from the best budget options to the mid-tier conversions that I think are best, and then to the top-tier conversion/Supermoto bikes. Starting off our list with the budget options, we have the DRZ 400 SM. This is a great tried and true Supermoto that's been around for a very long time. As you can see, it might look a little bit outdated and is carbureted, so you don't have the convenience of fuel injection. Sitting at a MSRP of $7,900. This bike is a great option for somebody who's looking to get a Supermoto but doesn't want to deal with the whole conversion process, and does have a little bit more power than our other budget option. And for our second budget option, we have the Kawasaki KLX 300 SM, and this would be my pick for the budget tier that is fuel injected and has a lower MSRP of $6,600. It has more modern styling and has a 6-speed transmission, whereas the DRZ only has a 5-speed. And while both bikes would be a great option for somebody new to motorcycles, or somebody not looking for an extreme amount of power, either option is great. However, those who are coming from a bigger bike or looking for a more powerful Supermoto that can do clutch-up wheelies with ease will have to move to our mid-tier to get the job done. Now moving on to our mid-tier conversions. This is our XR 650L. And as you see in the picture here, this is how the XR650 comes from the factory. You will have to convert the wheels, and with conversions, it always requires to be a little bit more mechanically inclined for you to be able to swap the wheels. So with that in mind, the base price for the XR650L is $7,000 plus $2,000 for the wheel set. So with Supermoto wheels, you have the rims and the tires. So that averages out to be about $2,000 after all of that. And that'll leave you with this beauty. This is my dad's XR650L, and I think it is the best budget option for under $10,000 to get you a killer Supermoto. It's got plenty of power. This is my dad's favorite bike to do wheelies on. And not only is it one of the best, if not the best for reliability, it is also the best budget option for power. And all the options moving forward with the top tier list are not only $10,000 or more, but you do lose some of that reliability where the XR650L is just a solid, it's a tank. It might be heavier, might be a little bit slower, but is just an indestructible machine. We've had this one for 16,000 miles, all Supermoto setup, and we've just been really happy with it. And here's a quick clip on how the XR650 sounds. Alright, moving into our top tier category. And up first we have a conversion. It's the CRF 450L, now known as the CRF 450RL. And the only difference is just cosmetics, so they just changed the looks of it. And of the bikes that we've mentioned thus far, this bike is by far the most maintenance intensive, and definitely would recommend an upgrade in the aftermarket ECU and a pipe, as this one comes really flat from the factory, even though it has a price point of over 10 grand, just over 10 grand at $10,100, and you have to factor in the $2,000 for the wheel set. So after you dump a bunch of money into the bike, it is super fun. It's really powerful. It's got plenty of power to get you in trouble. Wants to power wheelie with ease. I couldn't really ask much more from the bike because it just feels so light and so powerful, as it's nearly 60 horsepower. I think it's like 55 horsepower after the ECU and the exhaust. Sounds awesome. Now, I'm definitely biased since this is my favorite Supermoto we've owned, but it doesn't go without saying that we did have some issues with it. We threw a chain through the crankcase early, when we had 2,000 miles on the bike, and had a lot of issues with sprockets, figuring out what sprockets work best because it's a conversion. So that's part of the issue with doing conversions, is sometimes you might not have the right ratio for sprockets. But since then, after we got the sprocket issue worked out, the bike has been awesome, and it's just a blast to ride around. It's not a great bike for everything, though. It is a bike that is a blast at the tail, but is not a great commuter bike. It's pretty much purpose-built for the tail and for racing. I wouldn't recommend it for people looking to do more than just race or have a fun bike for the canyons. But this bike does have awesome acceleration that can get you in trouble real quick, like I almost found out in this clip here. Whew. But with that in mind, I'd say the CRF 450 RL is for those looking for more of a race bike than a commuting bike. For over 10 grand. You probably will not be very happy with it if you want anything other than a race bike. Like I said, 600-mile oil changes, not the best. It'd be pretty comparable to the KTM 500 and the KTM 450. Buying them as a dual sport and then converting them as Supermoto, I think we'd have pretty similar results. All of them are pretty simple conversions, but do have kind of all that race-inspired tech. But we went with the Honda because we've always had great luck with Hondas, and since we resolved all the issues with the sprockets, it has been a great bike. And I've always been kind of had a fear of the KTMs with all the questionable reliability that they might have, if you look online in the forums and stuff. But that's not to say that they're not great bikes. I've never personally experienced them, so I can't say for sure. But that being said, they're actually the top tier, most expensive bike on our list is the KTM 690 SMCR. And I'll also be conjoining the KTM with the Husqvarna 701, as they are essentially the same bike, just with different cosmetics. They just share a lot of the same components. So I'll be classifying these two together. Both bikes are priced at $13,000 for the MSRP, and is easily the baddest, most powerful Supermoto you can buy from the factory. I think they're really good looking. weigh within 30 pounds of all the other options that I've listed besides the CRF 450L. This one is roughly 80 pounds, 70 pounds heavier than the CRF, but does have 74 horsepower. So if you're comparing it to all the other Supermotos on the market from the factory, this is like an insane amount better. But both the Husqvarna 701 and the KTM 690 SMC-R seem to be really cool bikes. So if you have any experience with them, please drop a comment below to let me know how your experience with these bikes were, and if you would buy them again. And also let me know which Supermoto you think is best on this list. But I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like if you thought the video was interesting, and we'll see you in the next one.